For more than 800 years, Ireland has been trying to throw off the chains of British occupation. As an American, I can somewhat understand this desire, since my heritage is one that celebrates our independence from British colonial rule. Our efforts cannot be compared to that of the Irish, however, since theirs has been a struggle that endured far longer than our own. The conflict in Ireland has impacted wives, daughters, sons, and families of the men and women who have fought for more generations than my country has existed. Having a husband in the military and being the mother of a soldier's children, it's hard for me to understand why and how the Irish have continued this fight for so long. We are proud of my husband's service, and though our sacrifices have been small compared to some, none of us feel compelled to follow in his footsteps and go into combat for our country. Why did people continue to fight for so many generations in Ireland? In searching for the answer to this question, I decided to take a closer look at the family of James Connolly. James Connolly was born in Scotland to Irish parents who immigrated to escape the poverty of Ireland. James never forgot his Irish roots, and while serving in the British Army in Ireland, he became consumed with the idea of social justice. James also met and fell in love with Lily Reynolds, a Protestant member of the Church of Ireland. Lily was well employed and had a bright future, yet she fell in love with James and followed him to Scotland after he deserted the army to join the Socialist League. James and Lily married and would eventually have 6 children. The Connolly household was always a hub of political meetings, with a constant flow of visitors immersed in Connolly's political cause. The home was a loving home, yet at a very young age, James involved his children in political discussion and education. A letter written by Connolly shows his children's level of political understanding. In the letter, James states that his youngest daughter, aged 6, would not understand why he was in prison, but the older children, who were aged 12 to 19, would understand that many more than I, perhaps thousands, will have to go to prison and even the scaffold before this thing is won. 3 of the Connolly children, 19-year-old Nora, 17-year-old Ina, and 12-year-old Roddy, were all members of various Irish political organizations at this time as well. Both Nora and Ina, like their father, would actively participate in the Easter Rising in 1916. Even 15-year-old Roddy would join the fight in spite of Lily's protests. I cannot imagine sending my own 15-year-old off to fight in rebellion, yet James and eventually Lily accepted that it was important for him to take part in the fight. In an interview, Roddy Connolly talks about the role he played in the Rising and his last interaction with his father.
Wednesday afternoon, he took me aside into a room, and he had a large attaché case or traveling case, suitcase, and it evidently was full of documents and other things for all I knew. And he told me that a gunboat had come up the Liffey and had started to shell Liberty Hall, and that it was only hours before perhaps the shelling would be on the GPO itself. He wanted me to take these documents, he said was in this suitcase, to William O'Brien. But that time, I remember my father was extremely upset. He didn't want anybody, I think, to see how upset he was, and he was actually crying when he bid me what was actually our last goodbye, because when he was in the castle and when he was about to be executed, I was in Richmond Barracks, and under the direction of Sean McDermott, I hadn't revealed my connection as a son of James Connolly, and I was under the name of Alfred Carney. So I never got to see him after that Wednesday afternoon in the GPO.
James Connolly was injured during the Easter Rising while commanding the Dublin Brigade. After his surrender and capture, he was arrested and held until his execution. Because his injuries were severe, James had to be carried to his execution on a stretcher and was tied to a chair while facing the firing squad, too injured to sit upright on his own. Before his execution, Nora and Lily were able to visit him. In an interview, Nora recounts this last visit.
So when we got into my father, he said, "Well, Lily," he said, "I suppose you know what this means." I said, "Oh, no, oh, no, not that." He said, "Yes, Lily." She broke down then and she said, "But your beautiful life, James." She said, "Your beautiful life." And he said, "Wasn't it a full life, Lily, and isn't this a good end?" And she still cried, so he says, "Look, Lily, please don't cry." He says, "You'll unman me." So she tried to control herself. I was trying to control myself too. Then he said to me, "Put your hand down on the bed." So I put it down on the bed. And he said, "That's a copy of my statement to the court-martial. Try and get it out." So a piece of paper was folded up very tightly, not bigger than that. So I took it anyway. And we were there, I talked about little things. He was trying to plan our life for after he was gone, and then they told us time was up and we'd have to go. He used to be shot at dawn, you see.
After their father's death, Roddy and Nora Connolly continued the fight, both becoming figures in the politics of the Irish left. Why, after so much loss, did they continue? In Nora Connolly's book, The Unbroken Tradition, she says, "For the conquest of a nation is never complete till its soul submits, and the submission of the soul of a nation to the conqueror makes its slavery and subjugation more sure. But the soul of Ireland has never submitted, and sometimes when the struggle seemed hopeless and sacrifice useless, and there was thought to make truce with the foe, the voice of the soul of Ireland spoke and urged the nation once more to resist." Knowing my feelings and the feelings of my family, I decided to see how others felt about their family members' service. I randomly surveyed 100 adults who are spouses or children of those who have previously or currently served in the military. Of those 100, 68% felt that their spouse or parent's service was worthwhile. Of those 68, a little over half have chosen to serve themselves or would choose service if given the opportunity. Of those same 68, almost half have encouraged their children to join the military. These findings tell me that about 50% of people who have a spouse or parent who have served do in fact choose this same path for themselves and encourage their children to do the same. In Nora Connolly's book, she says, "For in Ireland we have the unbroken tradition of struggle for our freedom. Every generation has seen blood spilt and sacrifice cheerfully made that the tradition might live. While my family does not fall within that 50% who choose to carry on military tradition, I can't help but wonder, if the conditions of my country were similar to that of Ireland, would we feel differently, and would we choose the same path as the Connollys?"
Oh, where is our James Connolly? Oh, where is that gallant man? He has gone to organize the union, that working man might yet be free. And where is the citizen army? Oh, where is that gallant